Okay. You running? So, could you very shortly tell us about the main aims or the main program of the National Democratic Party?
Best way to describe the National Democratic Party is to say that it's similar to the socialist democratic parties in Europe. And that is to say that we believe in, from the economical policies in the public sector beside the private sector, in the open door policy. In the meantime, we are a non-aligned country, as you know, but this doesn't mean that we don't have special relations with the West or the countries with whom our interests would be parallel. In the meantime, we believe in establishing comprehensive peace in the Middle East. And as to the internal policies, we believe also in democratic processes and in a multi-party system. And as you know, we moved from the one-party system to the multi-party system several years ago. This is the main, political platform of the National Democratic Party.
Would you say the move from a one-party system to a multi-party system some years ago was a real move? Was it a real democracy you established, or will it come now with the re-emergence of the new Wafd party?
You know, the real democracy, the word real democracy, of course, depends on many things, depends on how the people would participate in the process itself. It means that the political parties themselves would be democratic in their organization and in the election of their leaders. It means that the government and the system as a whole would really follow a democratic process. I can say that Egypt started the democratic process before the 1952 revolution. But it was interfered at that time, and due to party excesses, before 1952. And then to fill the political vacuum, there was what we called one political organization, the Arab Socialist Union. Under the Arab Socialist Union, started what we called the platforms, and these platforms really were the original organization of all the existing political parties except the Wafd. So after that, the platforms inside the Arab Socialist Union went to general elections, and after that, the platforms were transformed to political parties. The Wafd was a political party which was established since 1919 to fight, to liberate the country from the British occupation. And then it was abolished by 1952 revolution. And then it came to existence in 1978 under the existing law which regulates the activities of the political parties. And then the Wafd really suspended its activities, but it was resumed again a few months ago.
Do you fear a hard election campaign fighting the Wafd, or, political fighting the Wafd?
No, there is no kind of an intention to fight, the Wafd, but the intention is to fight for my political party, not to fight against any other political party, because we believe that what the National Democratic Party has really offered to Egypt and the programs established by the National Democratic Party are the most suitable for the country, because at the present time I cannot say that there is such thing as a free economy. Even in the United States, it's not a free economy, it's a kind of a planned economy, a mixed economy. Also, we cannot say that the political parties can exist without any regulation whatsoever, because according to the law, which exists at the present time. An Egyptian political party should not be a branch of a political party abroad, and this is a very important thing. The other thing is that political parties should not be established on the basis of religious or ethnic, principles. And this is also very important. It also regulates the way of financing of the political parties so that we can guarantee that the political parties will not fall under, the financial aid from abroad or from foreign political parties or countries and so on. I think most of the regulations are to the benefit of the democratic process itself.
But do you welcome the re-emergence of the Wafd party?
Yes, I do. I do welcome the re-emergence of the Wafd, and personally I can tell you that I was the head of the what we called at this time the committee which would endorse and accept the existence or the applications of new political parties, because at that time I was the Secretary General of the Arab Socialist Union, the one political party existing in Egypt. And I was responsible for, the report which really gave birth to the Wafd. And there was nothing at all against, the Wafd coming back to existence in 1978, and I still believe the same thing at the present time.
But according to speculation in Cairo, you may lose quite a few seats to the Wafd party. Some people say they may even get 20% or maybe even 30% of the votes, and they'll have to take them from your party.
Well, I don't think that losing seats to any other political party will really damage the political life in Egypt. On the contrary, I think that elections has to be fair, held in a kind of an atmosphere that the people would go to the polls and would be free to express their political point of view. And if they are convinced that the National Democratic Party has really done what they would hope for Egypt, then they are free to vote for that party. If they believe that the Wafd can really serve them better, then they have the liberty and the freedom to vote for the Wafd. I believe that a strong opposition is required, and it will not harm the political life in Egypt. On the contrary, it will be of a benefit to a political life in Egypt.
In which way? In which way would you like the challenge from the Wafd?
I always welcome any kind of a challenge because political life is always a challenge. And the second, point of view, I believe that if we have a strong opposition, then the party enjoying the majority would know that such a majority is not a kind of a carte blanche to do whatever it would like to do, but that in the future such a majority can change, and that the opposition might really gain majority and then might step in and rule. So this will benefit the democratic life itself, and in the meantime it will give the National Party the opportunity to study their politics very thoroughly and to really be very careful when they submit any policy, that they have to know the repercussion in the public opinion and so on. So I believe that strong opposition is of benefit to the political life in the country.
There are reports that from some of the opposition parties that they are being hampered in the election campaign. I've seen reports that the Wafd, for instance, has difficulties in finding printing sites where they can have a paper published, and some of the small left-wing parties claim that the new 8% rule, to have 8% of the votes in order to get a seat in parliament, is in favor of the government party.
I can tell you, that these are not really originated by the government or by the ruling party at the present time, because the Wafd can really print his intended newspaper in any other printing office or in Al Ahram or Akhbar or like the opposition papers are all printed, you know, in the national printing papers. So the problem of printing the newspaper itself, in my opinion, is not valid. I know that political parties would need finance, and financing is very important. According to the law, I think the government can really extend financial help to political parties. And this is not a novelty, because we studied the financing of political parties and we found that 22 in the Western countries really political parties are financed by their governments. Even in the United States campaign, presidential campaign, you know that the government would pay for 5 cents per vote for each one of the candidates. So the financing is the problem, and I think the government would be willing to help in the financing. If I take, you know, the other problem of the 8%, which you said, from the beginning, the proposal of proportionate representation came from the opposition. It was not the proposal of the National Democratic Party. And their argument was that, you know, the party that really gets the majority in one of the constituencies, then this will not give the minority votes any opportunity to be represented in the National Assembly. So the National Democratic Party adopted the principle of proportionate representation. But in the meantime, to have a kind of a valid, you know, political representation, for instance, in Germany, they prescribe 5% for political parties to be represented on the national level. So in Egypt, we said that if a political party would like to really be represented, should at least have an 8%, you know, on the national level. I don't think that the number of political parties really mean that the country is more democratic than another. I think that very, you know, well-established democracies have only 2 political parties, like the United States. If we take a measure of having more than 4 or 5 or 6 political parties, then this might induce political instability. And I don't like to name countries, but we have Italy as an example for that, or some of the other countries where tremendous number of political parties will not mean more democracy, but will mean more instability, which will lead to chaos and not to more democratic life. So I think that even if at the present time we have 5 political parties, and the 5 political parties can represent all kinds of attitudes, you know, and I think if these political parties are serious, then they can have more than the 8% which is prescribed by the law.
So they have also, excuse me, there have also earlier been claims that some of the election results from earlier elections have been a bit rigid, or there have been frauds or mistakes and failures. In short, that they haven't been quite honest. Will they be honest this time?
You know, this accusation really requires, I can say, evidence, because in any elections, the parties concerned have their representatives, you know, at the polling stations, and the boxes where the people would really vote for and put their voting papers in are sealed, and they are not opened except, you know, in the presence of all the representatives of the political parties. In the meantime, these have local committees to supervise the elections, and they are under the chairmanship of one of the judges of the judicial system. So the allegations are really, in my opinion, are foundless, and I think that the future elections, you know, will prove that. And I think that elections in the past have never been rigged, as they say, but you know, it's always that when the opposition would lose, they would come out with the allegation that the elections were not correct and so on.
How many seats do you think the Wafd will have in the elections?
Well, it's rather a difficult question at the present time because, you know, the Wafd really depended in the past on the Egyptian bourgeoisie, or mean effectively on the land-owned bourgeoisie. And as you know, after the 1952 revolution by President Nasser, these big families' ownership in land has been broken, distributed among farmers, so they do not enjoy the same political influence as before. So at the present time, I think it's a problem even to the Wafd to come out with the candidates who are going to run for elections. And in the meantime, the social structure of the country has changed tremendously from the time of the Wafd. So one can never tell how much or how many seats the Wafd can win, but I can say that the Wafd can attract, you know, the older elements which have really been not supporting the revolution, 1952 revolution, or by people who were in some way or another disappointed by some actions like holding the peace treaty with Israel and so on. So we can find that the Wafd can attract some of these elements, but they cannot rely on the same elements that they used to rely on before.
What do you think will be the main election issue? Will it be the economy, or will it be some of the foreign policy issues?
You know, in most countries, when we really study the election campaigns, the local issues really would be the main issues, because foreign issue will be secondary to the local issues. So I think that the local issues will be, or internal policies will come in the first place, and then the foreign policy. And when we come even to the foreign policy at the present time, I don't think that anyone in Egypt is objecting to the peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. If some are objecting to the Camp David because they say that the Camp David did not treat the Palestinian problem as a political problem, but it treated it as a refugee problem because it was based on Resolution 242. I can say that these people did not really study the Camp David very well. And I might be, of course, always accused of supporting the Camp David really very strongly, because I think if the Camp David is studied in the proper way, you don't have to object to it. You can modify on it, you can accept other initiatives, but you cannot say that the Camp David is really a process which endangers Egyptian security or Egyptian foreign policy. On the contrary, it finds a kind of a workable solution to the Palestinian problem. If any other alternative can be found, we are not against that. But I don't think that anyone will object to the close friendship and ties with the West, and especially with the United States. You can find that the Progressive Party would like to have more, friendly relations with the Soviet Union. But to our policy, we find that the Soviet Union is supporting Libya, is supporting Ethiopia, is supporting South Yemen. The three countries have joined together in a kind of a treaty which is directed against Sudan and Egypt. And the three countries are backed and supported by the Soviet Union. So we think that at the present time the Soviet Union's foreign policy is not conforming to the Egyptian interests and to the Egyptian foreign policy. So I do not think that our foreign policy advocated by the National Democratic Party, especially in endorsing a comprehensive peace in the area, accepting a peace treaty with Israel, in the meantime securing the Egyptian interests abroad against the inclusions of the Soviet Union will be challenged by